Hey, Brides, welcome.
Hey Coop, thanks for having me.
What's been happening? Been a long time since I've seen you.
It has been a while, a bit of a sort of a blast from the past getting on here, but yeah, life's been pretty hectic. Bit of a whirlwind last couple of months. Come straight out of state origin camp and have moved back to Sydney for NRLW season. Been living up on the Goldie since the start of the year, so sort of made that home and back in Sydney now for season. Last week of pre-season this week, and season's kicking off next Sunday. So it's all been happening.
Busy time for you. Yep. And moved to Gold Coast. When did you move there? What were you doing there?
Yeah, so Blake and I moved up to Burleigh at the start of the year. He got a really exciting role up there, so that sort of sparked the move, and yeah, it's probably been the best thing that we've done. We're yeah,
Yeah.
loving it up there. Hard place to take Burleigh heads,
Yeah.
but no, we're really enjoying it.
Could be a bit of a switch to the Gold Coast Titans coming soon then, eh?
Oh, I don't know, rooster till I
Yeah,
die, I
no, lovely,
think.
lovely. And so you've moved back, where you living at now? You've moved back down to Sydney for football season?
Yeah, moved back
Yeah.
down for footy season, so I'm just in Kensington at the moment. So nice and close to training. We train out at Moore Park,
Yep.
entertainment quarters, our base, and then training field across from Allianz Stadium. So literally just down the road, so convenient. Don't want to be too much further in Sydney with all the traffic. The closer the better. So yeah, really stoked.
And Blake's still up at Gold Coast during football season.
Yeah,
You'll just travel as
yeah.
you'll travel. Yep.
Yeah, doing a bit of back and forth at the moment. He's pretty lucky with his role that he has a little bit of flexibility. So yeah, he comes down when he can. So yeah, just doing the bit
Perfect.
of the back and forth at the moment.
Yeah, no, good. And Allianz Stadium, how's the new facilities there? You liking it?
Well, we actually aren't in the Allianz Stadium. So our facilities, we are actually a part of the entertainment quarter. So the demountables that the men were using whilst Allianz was being built has kind of become our home. So our women's facilities down at the entertainment quarter in demountables. But to be honest, I actually love that we have our own space.
Yeah,
Allianz Stadium is, I think if we both teams, NRL and NRLW, were in that space, it would be quite everyone on each other's toes. So
yeah,
the
for
fact that
sure.
we've got our own base, it's our home, we've got our own locker room, gym facilities, yeah, everything you could need. So yeah, it's great. There is a vision to soon bring in plans are in place a actual women's facility down in the entertainment quarter, just down from
Perfect.
Allianz. So that's all in the works at the moment, and actually got a little bit of a vision of that yesterday by one of our staff of what that potentially is planning to look like, and amazing,
Yeah,
so
perfect.
incredible, like state of the art facilities. So uh, it will be definitely a welcome change from good old demountables,
Yep,
but that's obviously a process to get that happening at the same time.
for sure. And what do all the other NRLW teams do? Like, do they share with the boys or do they have different facilities as well? How does that all work?
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix across the board. Parramatta's probably leading the way in the women's space and in their facilities. They've just opened state-of-the-art facilities out at Kellyville, where the men and women are alongside, and the women have exactly what the men have within their facilities. So they're probably the leading the way in terms of facility wise. But even Newcastle Knights, their facilities are also incredible down there in Newcastle. So yeah, it's sort of like a bit of a mix at the moment in terms of facilities, and probably an area that a few clubs need to improve on. But hopefully we start to see some
For
more
sure.
amazing facilities and facilities that the women deserve in the next few years as the game continues to grow.
Especially you guys. You have been in every premiership since the start, except for two. And you have won two, I believe. So they need to
Yes.
pull their act together a little bit
Yeah.
and get
Oh,
you
I
guys on the
know. I
front
think
foot.
I think the biggest challenge of us is our location. Obviously being
Yeah.
right in the middle of Sydney, we don't have the space
Yep.
as say Parramatta do out in Kellyville. There's just like ample amount of space. So that's our biggest downfall being in the city. As much as we absolutely
Yeah.
love being in the heart of Sydney, it also comes with its challenges.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us a little bit about before moving to Sydney, before getting in the NRLW team with the Roosters. You grew up in Muswellbrook. Tell us a little bit about that, where you went to school, how you, what
Yep.
that was like.
just a small town Muswellbrook girl. Went to school, Muswellbrook Public School, and then went to Muswellbrook High School. So that was yeah, that was it feels like a whole life ago
Yep.
because as soon as I finished school, moved to Sydney, was pursuing rugby sevens at that time. So I was already traveling to Sydney like 3, 4 times a week during year 12 to meet the needs of that sport. And yeah, once school sort of finished, I made my way down to Sydney and up until last year I've been living in Sydney. So
Yep.
it kind of feels like I've been here for so long now and also studying as well. So moved to Sydney. At that time was doing an exercise and sports science degree, finished that
Yep.
and now studying physio. But yeah, so I feel like I've been able to achieve a lot considering just a small town Muswellbrook
Yeah.
girl. Yeah, it's pretty cool to reflect on what I've been able to achieve just from being
Definitely.
that small town girl.
100%. And how did you just said you started when you went down to Sydney, you were pursuing rugby sevens. How did you actually get into playing rugby league? I mean, from the outside in, knowing you growing up, touch footy was a big background of yours. How did you,
Yeah.
what was the path to rugby league?
Yeah, so touch footy, die hard. Anything that sort of happened in that world, I was a part of. And yeah, loved that. Um, I loved playing touch footy. It was yeah everything that we did, and to get into rugby league and even to get into rugby sevens. Actually, I signed up to a fitness testing day, pretty much. So like a talent
Yep.
ID day. The rugby sevens was like an AIS sports draft in Sydney. Signed up to that through a whole heap of performance measures, and then was put on a scholarship through the AIS and chased that pathway. But then in 2018, I went up to the Gold Coast actually, and they hosted their first ever NRLW Talent ID Day. So 2018 was the inaugural year of NRLW, so that was all new, exciting. It literally just was an email that come across mum's computer and we just uptook that opportunity. So it's been a different path, I guess, in the sense of being a country girl and you had to look for opportunities outside of what was around the local area to actually get an opportunity. So yeah, signed myself up to these fitness testing days, was yeah, in front of the people that I need to be in front of. And that's how the opportunity with the Roosters presented itself. It was actually funny that day that I had uh coaches from the Broncos, the Dragons, and also then the Roosters reached out. So it was in the first inaugural year, it was Broncos, Roosters, Warriors, and Dragons. So they were
Yes.
the
Yep.
first inaugural four teams. And yeah, it was kind of like a surreal moment to be approached on that day and start thinking about, wow, this is an opportunity that has been presented. And what do I do? I was in Sydney
Yep.
at the time. I just had started uni. So Roosters was sort of a little bit of a no-brainer, but just to have the option there was so cool and be there from the start, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Who was your, I guess, what NRL team did you follow before the NRLW come around? Did you follow any?
So growing up, I was a mad Benji Marshall fan. So
Yes.
I was a Tigers girl through and through.
Yep.
Um, I would say I don't really follow a team now, but I just have a soft spot for obviously the Roosters because I'm
For sure.
closely connected with them. Dad is like a diehard Parramatta fan, so it's like, all right, like if they lose, that impacts him. So a little bit of a soft
Yep.
spot for them and a bit of an interest of how they go. But yeah, I feel like I watch footy to watch good players now as
Yeah.
opposed to actually follow someone.
Definitely. And if the Tigers had have had a NRLW team in that first 4 years, do you reckon that would have influenced your decision on who you would have chosen to go for in Sydney?
Mm, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think the opportunity to play for the Roosters, such a prestigious club, such
Yeah,
a
definitely.
held to high account, and just an amazing club as a whole. Um, I think yeah, it would be really hard to go past that opportunity that Roosters did present, and yeah, I'm so lucky to call myself a Rooster.
No, perfect. And you touched on there, so obviously in the Group 21 area where you grew up, the Muswellbrook, the Upper Hunter. Um, it's very there's a lot of people and a lot of talented people in this competition, both in the women and the men's, that probably should get opportunities in the arena in the cities, but they never do because of where we are. So you've said there that you went off your own back and went to these academies and went to these training days. What's I guess that's a big mindset thing. So what's the difference between, I guess, having a small town mindset like most of us do in the area, and then having the big league dreams like you did, and pursuing them to get into the position that you are in now?
Yeah, I suppose that is really underpinned by the opportunities that were presented to me through my parents. So obviously growing up younger, like the only way for me to be able to pursue their opportunities were through my parents driving me here, there,
Yeah,
everywhere. I'm so grateful for everything that they have allowed me to achieve because I wouldn't be where I am today without their support and always giving us these opportunities, I guess. So having that amazing support network behind me is definitely allowed me to achieve what I have. And I'm very grateful to be in the position where I was able to go to Newcastle, go to Sydney, put my foot in this, put my foot in that, and just put myself out there because I know a lot of people don't have the ability to do that or don't have the support behind them to achieve what they want to achieve. And that's what I am so grateful for myself, but that's what I also see as the biggest barrier to being a regional, a player or an athlete growing up in a regional area. If you don't have that support, then your talent is being wasted, I guess.
yep,
And
yep,
I suppose we're sort of changing the narrative a bit now that those opportunities are presenting themselves. I went back to Muswellbrook a couple of months ago with Girls' Day Out and was able to deliver a clinic through them. And just the amount of girls that showed up to that day in all codes. So there was AFL, there was soccer, there was rugby, there was rugby league, there was cheerleading, but just the amount of girls that showed up. And that's just opportunity. So the
yep.
opportunities coming to our area is going to um, drive those players and athletes to be able to achieve what they want to achieve. And girls don't have to leave home. I had to move to Sydney for these opportunities. Girls no longer have to do that. They can stay in Muswellbrook. They can and they can achieve what they want to achieve.
Yep.
So I think that's been the biggest shift is like the opportunities that have presented themselves through just the growth of the game, I guess.
Definitely, definitely. And you're being very modest there in your response. Like to have I guess the mindset to actually, you obviously believed in yourself that you were good enough to make these teams, and so to have the mindset to go, rightio, this is happening on this date here, to actually go to mum and dad and say, hey, I want you to take me to this. Like I know when I started my business. I was fresh out of my apprenticeship and I went to mum and I said, I've just rang this person and told them, sorry, they rang me and asked, do I want to come work for them straight out of my apprenticeship? And I went home and mum said, oh, what did you say to him? And I said, I'll only come work for you if you give me 50% of your business. And just the look on mum's face when I said it, she was like, you what? Like, and it all comes down to, I guess believing in yourself and having the mindset that you're confident that you can do it. So again, your mum and dad, awesome support team to get you to where you are now. However, your mentality to actually make them decisions and ask them for that help to get you there. You obviously believe that you could do it all along.
Yeah, definitely. No, you've got to have that drive, you've got to have that determination. There's a lot of um uh selfishness behind it, I guess, in the sense that you're sacrificing a lot, you're missing out on a lot as well. But I had this dream of wanting to be an athlete,
Yep.
and that was like my hard work, my work ethic, and just having that behind me and wanting to achieve these things is definitely what drove me to to success, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And what's it like playing in the NRLW? So, as you said, a small Muswellbrook country girl, grew up like everyone has watching this podcast, and now you're on the big stage. What's that like? What's the change like? How's it feel?
Yeah, it's still surreal. I can't believe I've been in the game since 2018 and
Yep.
I get to play at the top level of our game. NRL is something I always watched as a kid growing up, and now I'm that role model for those girls. I'm playing on TV, eyes are on me. Yeah, I get to be that person that people look up to, and just to be that, that just makes me feel grateful for the opportunity that I have.
Yep.
And yeah, being an NRLW player, it's incredible. Yeah, the opportunities and how our game has grown, I guess is the biggest thing that
For
I
sure.
reflect back on, and I'm like, this is incredible. Like, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. There's our game
Yeah.
is just yeah, getting to that point and growing and becoming a product that everyone wants to watch.
Yeah, definitely. And how have you managed that? Like, has it been difficult to go from just, your everyday person to where you are now, like the changes? And obviously, as you said, you're a model to a lot of, especially young girls out there. You're a huge role model to them. It hasn't really happened so much in the NRLW, but in the NRL, there's a lot of NRL stars that haven't really coped with that pressure and have made mistakes. And how have you gone with that side of things?
Um, I suppose, yeah, just wearing that hat of being a role model, and you can't be what you can't see. So
Yep.
I love that I have this opportunity. I love that I have this platform to be able to drive girls to see that, hey, she's just a country girl from Muswellbrook. Look what she's achieved.
Yep.
I find it quite special, I suppose, in the sense of how have I found it. I've found it really rewarding, and to be able to use my platform like that and showcase that you really can achieve what you put your mind to.
Definitely, definitely. And more than the NRLW, you've played a few state of origins before you were injured, I believe.
So yeah, I've been a part of the squad for 3 series.
Yep,
I was actually meant to debut the year that I did my ACL, so
that's right.
a little
Yep,
bit bittersweet with that one. But yeah, have been involved in the Origin Series 21, 2021, and also this year. So
yep.
yeah, really amazing to be a part of that environment.
And what's that? Is it any different to the normal, I guess, training routine that you go through? Is it a step up? What's it like being in camp and I guess preparing for Origin? Because as well, it's actually Origin's at the start of your season, isn't it? So it's like a pre-season challenge more than like how the men have it. It's in the middle of the season, which everyone's debating about now whether it should be or not. For you guys, it's more of is it a trial or like how do you go with that?
Yeah, definitely up for debate whether
Definitely.
it's good or not. So a little bit of background of how it actually works is we entered a 6 week training block leading into the series kicking off.
Yep.
That was selected on the basis of performance in last year's NRLW slash Pacific Championships, all that footy that happened in the lead up to this year. 6 week training block, really intensive, preseason kind of almost. And then in the last 2 weeks, we did scrimmages against each other, and
Hmm.
that was virtually selection. In my opinion, I think it's pretty crazy that you're expected to be at the peak of
Yeah.
you're meant to be peaking at the level of an athlete at that time of year before you've even played any footy.
Yes.
This year we obviously had girls play in Vegas and also in All Stars leading into that, but it's not the same. Origin is the biggest, fastest, most watched game of the year, and yeah, to have to be peaking to that level before you've even played any footy is, I think, is pretty wild. I personally would love to see it shifted to in between our NRLW season.
Yes.
One, so you have the opportunity to actually play some footy,
Yep.
and then two, selection is based on how you're performing, right? And you've actually got the opportunity to showcase what you've been working hard in the off season for, I guess.
Yes.
Obviously, quite challenging with our competition structure at the moment.
Yeah.
12 teams, and it's kind of like, where does that fit? If you take Origin girls out of teams, it's like, can a
Yeah.
team even field a squad? Like, I know, for example, us, we had maybe 7 of us in Origin camp, which is like our spine, and more. So we would find that really challenging having to front a team if you put a Origin round in, and then you're also expected to play
Yeah.
NRLW that weekend. So there's a lot of thought process that needs to go behind it of what that actually looks like, whether it's okay, we have a break, 2 week break, and that's when Origin 1 kicks off, and then it's just like broken up like that. Which I think we'll get to. It's just a matter of like working out pros and cons of everything. But I definitely think that's the way we need to shift. And Origins, the structure of Origins. So this year, like I said, it was more so like a tournament, where it was like
Yeah.
week on, week off. You'd play a game, you'd be out of camp for 4 days, and then you'd come straight back up into camp. So it was very intense.
Yep.
And that structure is not set in for next year. So there is
Yep.
open discussions happening at the moment around where Origin fits next year. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but it is pretty crazy that yeah, we're expected to peak before our
100%.
season even kicks off.
Especially if if you're someone who's won the premiership and you might get a little bit of extra time off to spend time with family and have a bit of a holiday in the off season, and then you're meant to come back and try and get to your peak fitness and I guess talent capacity before the season starts, as you said, that's crazy. I was speaking to someone the other day because obviously there's debate about the NRL state of origin where it's at. Obviously, I'm a Penrith supporter, so for us, for many years, it's hurt us. We've got again 7, 8 people that are playing Origin, which we miss out on. But one of the most important things this year is we played in Perth on a Wednesday, and then they expected Penrith to play in New Zealand on the Friday. So yes, we can back up, but we're flying across a whole country, 8 hour flight, which is different time zones as well. That's only asking for an injury. So obviously that didn't happen. Um, I have thought about it quite a bit. I think the girls should be with the men on this, whether it's the same day or the same week. I think the same day might be a bit much, but even if it's the same week, so we go Monday and a Thursday, so we've got 2 days of State of Origin back to back. I thought about possibly end of season. Obviously, I don't play in the professional industry, so you'd be the one best to answer that. But if we're having, grand finals in October or when do you guys have your grand final?
Yeah, they marry up NRL and NRLW grand finals.
So if we're having them grand finals in October, do we have like, I don't know, a month off and then go straight into Origin, or do we just go in the back of grand finals? Because some teams would have already had 6 to 8 weeks off for not making finals. Do we just go straight from the grand final into Origin, but then the players that have won the premiership, obviously they don't get to celebrate as hard as everyone else? There's a lot to weigh up.
There is. It's tricky. Our calendar's so busy as it is. Like, you see us play NRLW season, but outside of that, there's All Stars. At the end of the year, they have Pacific Championships, so the
Yeah.
opportunity to represent your nation.
Mm,
It's an ongoing conversations around where it best fits, and I don't think there's really an ideal fix to make it possible for a player to represent everything and everyone. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the next few years play out.
could they, again, just spitballing here, could they possibly put a cap on it so you can only pick a certain amount of players from every team? I don't know how that would benefit some teams
Yeah.
or not, but
Mm.
like I mean, if both sides are doing it, you can't like it would be similar in fairness.
Yeah, but then it's the debate of, well, if you can only pick so many from this team, then are you
Yeah,
disadvantaging the
correct,
teams that have more players that should be there instead of someone else? I don't know.
correct.
It's definitely a tricky one.
I don't envy the person who's got to sort that out because it is a bit of a
No,
debacle.
very
Um,
much so.
and you've made the Prime Minister 13? Yep,
13, I got the opportunity to play for Australia in the Prime Minister's 13, trip over to Fiji. So that
that's
was
so cool.
that was a early highlight of my career for sure.
That's awesome. That's I mean for myself looking in, that would to wear the Australian jersey. Have you ever worn it for touch footy?
Not for touch footy, no. I sort of left the scene of touch footy and went
Yep,
to sevens when the game was sort of like getting to that level, I guess.
definitely, definitely. Well, just to wear the Australian jersey for me, that would be like that'd be the peak. How did it feel to get in that team and then again play with that jersey on?
Yeah, no, super special, and it's obviously a huge goal of mine to be in a Jillaroos jersey one day. So, like you
Yep.
said, it's the what you strive for the most and the biggest honor,
Yeah,
honestly.
definitely. And is that your goal? Is that what your, I guess, in terms of short-term goals or even long-term goals, is the Gillaroos where you're aiming to get to?
Absolutely. So we've got a Rugby League World Cup next year.
Yes.
So that's definitely one of my yeah big goals is to put that Australian jumper on, and the prospects of World Cup next year is very exciting. And yeah, obviously just short term want to play good consistent footy and yeah earn that jersey, I guess, and do my best to yeah put myself in the best position to be up to the selection.
Definitely. And one of the questions I've got coming up is around injuries. In my opinion, you would be a shoe-in for the Australian side and even the Origin sides if you had have been on the park for the last 2 years. So you've had a fair few injuries. How have you handled that in terms of, I guess, mentally and physically? That would be so frustrating. I put myself in perspective. I just play local footy, and when I get injured at local footy and I can't take the park, like I know how frustrating it is for me to sit on the sideline, and that's just a local bash. But for you guys, it's what you've worked for all year. It's your dream. It's your livelihood. How have you handled your two injuries that you've had?
Yeah, it's definitely a challenging time. I think just recognizing that we play a contact sport and injuries are a part of it is the first thing, just to not let yourself go mad.
Yeah,
But the ACL injury that I sustained in 2022 was probably the most challenging thing I've ever experienced.
yeah,
From the perspective of it can be between a 9 to 12 month recovery time, but mine extended out to 15 months. And the frustrating thing with my recovery was my body just wasn't responding to what I needed it to do, and
yeah,
was sort of doing everything right, going above and beyond. But at the end of the day, my body just didn't want to,
yeah,
yeah, it wasn't cooperating, I guess. And that was extremely frustrating to, yeah, just felt like I was always two steps forward, one step back, two step forwards, one step back, and just going through that, and then the resilience to bounce back from that injury itself.
yeah,
Yeah, it was very challenging, but to actually get back out on that field after going through all that, you see all your hard work is paid off, and everything happens for a reason, I guess.
yeah,
And then sustaining the forearm fracture in last year's trial game before the season, and had just worked my ass off all preseason to then get 2 weeks before the season and be ruled out for 7 weeks.
yeah,
Yeah, you ride the highs and the lows. I wouldn't say that it's like, all right, just you just got to get on with it. It's definitely a mental challenge, and like you said, when you've worked so hard and it can just be taken away from you like that, you grow an appreciation of this is why you love the game so much, I
yeah,
guess. And because when you have it taken away from you, you realize yeah, how much of an impact that has on you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the support staff like and the physio like for not just the Roosters, but for the NRLW? And how much did they help during that process?
Yeah, they were obviously a huge component of getting me back on the field, and we're very lucky at the Roosters. This year we've had our physio brought on full time, and
Yep.
that's made a dramatic difference to our performance. Just our performance environment as a whole, having that access to her throughout the week and not having to um, juggle between 3 hours each afternoon because we get in at 4 and we're out of there by 7, or having to share that between a squad of 30.
Yep.
Um, it's just made a huge difference across the board. There's a few clubs that do have performance staff that are hired at that full-time capacity, but there's still a too high of a percentage that don't have that yeah, that full-time capacity of those staff, or just that appreciation of how important those staff are actually in our environment. They keep us
Definitely.
together, they keep us ticking over. So now from a Roosters perspective, they were yeah, massive and hugely supportive in getting me back out on the field, and I'm very grateful for them.
That's awesome. And you guys start the season on Sunday. How you feeling now, physically and mentally? You ready to go?
Yeah, feeling really good. Have had like come out of Origin camp and straight back into ripping into pre-season. A bit of a shock to the system, sort of coming out of camp and then stepping back into peak week of pre-season.
Yep.
So the lungs were burning, the legs were sore. But yeah, we played a trial game last week, which was good to blow the cobwebs out and just see how our combos were all working together. It's one thing to train, but then it put it on against an opponent that doesn't know exactly what you're doing is yeah, an advantage of having a preseason game, I guess, and then looking at that video footage and just nutting out those one percenters that we can be better at leading into round one.
Yeah, for sure. And we were spoken about it last week. I had Aaron Bullock on here last week, and he spoke about obviously how tough his career's been and the setbacks that he's had. And one of the things that we spoke about is nearly every successful person has, more, probably not more, but a lot of setbacks. And I guess the biggest thing into being successful and getting to that point in their career that they have wanted to get to in any industry, the main thing is just to get back up and keep going. Like you would know firsthand how many people from ACL injuries it can end their career. Um, how important do you think it is for people that have been knocked down, not just in sport but in business? People's businesses fail all the time; they go into liquidation. Sporting celebrities, anyone in their industry, how important is it to get back up and keep going?
Oh, absolutely. I think that just really is a testament to the person if they can bounce back. It shows how resilient they are, how strong-minded they are to achieve what they really want to achieve. And every setback is a learning.
Yep.
And if you don't have any setbacks, how are you going to learn is sort of how I look at it. Or if you don't get knocked down, how are you going to work out how to get back up? So I think it's a huge component of that underpins who that person actually is as a person and shows what they're willing to do to bounce back out of something, whether it be in business or as an athlete coming back from injury. It's true testament to them as a person, how strong they truly are.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm always under the opinion impression that if you're not getting knocked down and you don't feel like it's hard, you're not trying hard enough. There's obviously a lot more from an athlete's point of view. Some of the time injuries just happen, but a lot of the time it's because you're pushing your body to its full potential. And then in business as well, if you're not taking the risks, if you're not, trying hard enough, you're never going to get knocked down. So that you got to think about that as well when you do get knocked down. Is why did that happen? Because I'm busting my ass to make it happen.
Yeah,
Um,
100%. One of a physio that I've had one time called me a race car, and I was like, "Why do these little niggles keep happening?" And I was like, "Because you're a race car. You need that constant maintenance, and because you are pushing your body to the extreme every single session." And
Yeah,
that's definitely how I operate as an athlete: is always wanting to be better, always pushing myself to be the best that I can be, and pushing my body to the extremes. And I'm very grateful for what my body can do, but it's just
yep.
keeping that maintenance as the year goes on to make sure I can keep on pushing my body to those limits.
A little bit off script, but how important is, I guess, physical maintenance as well as nutritional maintenance? What do you think the percentage is? What should one person focus on more than the other? Is it a 50-50 split? What's your opinion?
I reckon 50-50 split.
Yep.
Both are just as important as each other. Being in an elite environment for so long now, we obviously have those support networks around us from the high performance staff to the nutritional support through dietitians. And you just learn as you go. And sometimes you learn the hard way and what underfueling yourself can lead to. So if you're not fueling your body to be able to perform, then you're just going to get injured. And if you're not lifting in the gym to get stronger, then you're just going to get injured. So they definitely complement each other, and both are just as important as each other. Yeah, to being the best athlete you can be. Yeah, both are so important.
For sure. And two-part question, what motivated you from the start to try and get into the NRLW? What was your who or what was your motivation? And now that you're there, obviously you've got bigger goals. What motivates you to still move forward? So why you've hit your peak and what do you want to get in the NRLW? Why what stopped you from just going, right, I'm here now, I'm good. I'm just going to sit back.
Yeah, I suppose what motivated me to get here is just me as a person and me as an athlete, always wanting to be better, always continually trying to improve. I'm learning every training session that I go to, never settling on just being this is the athlete I am. So as yeah, I suppose that's what motivates me, is to push those barriers and see what I can achieve. And then everything that I've achieved in the games so far, but there's so more. I think we spoke
Yep.
about it earlier around my goals of wanting to wear that Australian jersey, wanting to actually debut in that Origin arena as well. And that's just a matter of time. It's just me continuing to improve as a player and an athlete, and doing virtually everything I can to put myself in the best position to be up for selection, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And how in that position that you're in at the moment, with obviously it's you've got a side job as well, so you work for the RLPA, plus you're trying to do you do anything else? Like, how do you combine your personal life with your, I guess, your work life being an NRLW player? What outside things do you do?
Yeah, it's definitely a juggle. So, obviously in the NRLW, we're not full time yet. We're still semi-professional athletes.
Yep.
Even though it does take up a lot of our week and time.
Yes.
Work full time with the RLPA in the player operations role there. So, that's work, and then obviously studying physio as well as I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And then fit in life. Yeah, I find that I've always just been a busy person, and the upbringing of always having to travel, to pursue sporting opportunities. Life has always sort of been busy, and I've really learnt along the way how to best balance that, because happy life outside of footy is happy life in footy, happy life outside of work is happy life
Yep.
in work, and that balance is so important for me, not to drain myself. And yeah, it's just a matter of prioritizing time, but also just having great people around me. I'm so lucky with my family. I'm so lucky with Blake, so supportive, and the environments that I'm in as well. So Roosters and RLPA, they are the best team to be a part of.
Yep.
Um, Surrounding myself with those people, they know my capacity, they know when to pull back or to push through, and just to be there when I need that support. So without their support around me, I could probably crumble. I'm not going to say that I don't sometimes get overwhelmed with
Yep.
when there is a lot of things going on, but it's just, I think, identifying that early and um, offloading my plate a little bit. So yeah, it's a juggle, but I'm very grateful to be in the position that I am.
And what does a generic day in the life of Bridie look like? And does that change depending on time of the week? So obviously towards the end of the week, you're getting into, it's probably different outside of footy compared to when footy season starts. But what's the general day look like for you guys?
Yeah, so now that I'm in pre-season, general week, so I mentioned I'm working full-time RLPA, so that's my 9 to 4. As
Yes.
4 o'clock kicks off, then that's Roosters time. So during pre-season, we've been training Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So every afternoon throughout the week, and then Saturdays is our morning session. And I've just finished my uni for the semester. I only had one unit this semester, which was very nice not to have to be juggling 2 or 3 subjects like I
Yep.
have previous semesters. But yeah, that's sort of a general week of me. I'm lucky with my job. I also have the flexibility to work from home, in the office around 1 to 2 times a week, and then the rest is work from home or out in clubland, engaging with players and staff. So yeah, it's quite a busy week, and yeah, the juggle is real. But yeah, come the weekends, Sunday is generally always an off day. If once we go into season, obviously that will change. But yeah, that's sort of what a week looks like for me.
And we'll get into a little bit sooner on, I guess, the difference in why you have to have a second job and obviously go to uni and whatnot, and the pay gap between the NRLW and the NRL. Before we do get into that, just wanted to recap on last week. So we had another young country fellow on last week in Aaron Bullock. He grew up in Singleton. He's obviously a jockey. A great episode last week as well. In a lot of similar things, every athlete or business person or celebrity you speak to, they've all got the same kind of upbringing in terms of they get knocked down, they get back up. And he spoke heavily on that last week. So and it happened on the weekend. So I spoke to Az on Wednesday. He was meant to race on Saturday at Randwick, which loves going down to Randwick. It's a big race day. Had some setbacks there, so didn't end up racing. Um, and then he comes out on Monday at Scone and he rides four winners, 1 second, and another place. So again, just credit to him to I don't know what happened on Saturday, whatever it may have been, but credit to him to not be able to race on Saturday and then turn around 2 days later. I'm assuming he would have had to try and make weight on Saturday. So his weight, he was telling me his weight's like 62 kilos, and when he races, he's got to be 58. So he has to lose 4 kilos in 24 hours. He does two on the first day and two on the race day. So he would have done that for Saturday and obviously didn't come through. And then he's got to turn around and do the same thing on Sunday, Monday to get back to racing weight and then to go out there on Monday and ride how he did. It just shows the mental strength and resilience that, all athletes have, especially the ones at the top of their game. Um, so he went
That's
great guns on the
incredible.
weekend. Yeah,
Wow.
it was awesome. Little bit about finally. So as I was speaking to you about at the start, a little segment that we do here is some racing tips that I give out to the fans here. A bit of a laugh, but last week we actually got a huge win. So all three of my tips got up. If you had have combined them into a multi, which one of our listeners did, they put $100 on it and they got $3,500 return. So we've done wonders.
That's
We'll,
pretty crazy.
we'll back that up again this week. But back into a little bit of industry news, I guess in your in the NRLW. So, how much, firstly, has the sport grown since it started? It was it 2018?
Team. Yeah.
Yep. Obviously four teams, and now we have 12, I believe. You got
Yes, yep. So as of this year, we've added in another two.
yes.
Yes.
That's huge.
So,
How have you seen that grown from the inside?
oh, being there from the start, I suppose I've seen it from day dot and how it's progressed. Started with four teams in 2018 to now be at 12. It's growing so much, and just the change within our game, the respect, the coverage, the um how we're treated, I guess, has even changed. The resources that have now been put into us. There's just been so much growth, and it's so exciting. And we're just at a point where we're just gonna keep on going up. It's a really exciting time for women's rugby league, and so grateful to be a part of it. We will finish our CBA cycle at the end of 2027.
Yep.
So we're hoping that by 28 we'll be living professional wages,
Yep.
full-time capacity. That's the goal. That's what the players want. That's what we're striving for. That's where we believe we can be come that 28 CBA cycle. So it's so exciting. There's just so much happening within our game. There's so many eyeballs on our games, and so many girls wanting to be rugby league players. I think the participation for women's rugby league is the highest growing game in Australia.
100%, and obviously there's still a long way to go on like it's grown massively since 2018, but there's still a huge growth aspect that we've got to hit. As you would know, I've got a big opinion on everything, as you would know from knowing me from a younger age. But so my opinion on a lot of especially let's put women's basketball into the equation. So again, they have been discussing how they get paid in their industry and why it's such a big gap to the men's basketball. But when you look at women's basketball to men's basketball, so men bring in, I think it was like, and this is in America, I'm talking, they bring in like $1 billion a year in revenue for the basketball, where women were 20 million. Um, However, it's not like that in NRL and NRLW. So obviously, you guys have had the biggest crowd at McDonald Jones Stadium for State of Origin in even in Knights time or anyone that's played there. And then again, the revenue that you guys are bringing into the game, the audiences and attendees that you're getting to games, it is, if not identical to the men's. I speak to a lot of people and they prefer watching the NRLW over the NRL. So why is there still such a big gap there when, from a business point of view, if I was like running the NRL, I would simply say, right, well, there's a gap there because, the NRL brings in this much revenue, the NRLW brings in this much revenue. So the pay gap is an equal percentage based on what you do for our company. It's not like that in the NRL. So why is there still such a big pay gap there, do you think?
I would love to know the justification of the people running the show of why that is.
Yep.
I think a big thing is because we work in CBA cycles, so that's pretty much your terms and conditions.
Yep.
And one big thing, like you mentioned before, eyeballs on TV, bums in seats. Women's State of Origin this year had over 1 million people tuning in to watch the
Yep.
game, which is a record breaker. We had over 60,000 people come to the games despite it being torrential weather, game 2 and 3. So, like you said, it just goes to show people want to be at our game. People are intrigued by our game. People are watching our game. The State of Origin series this year was incredible. Such a great display of rugby league. And as we spoke about earlier, off the back of no footy, virtually no footy, asking
Yep.
athletes to peak before they've even gone into season. So there's just so much potential there. But why? I don't know. And that's sort of what we're trying to break down at the moment moving forward. I know one big factor behind like the revenue and income, our television rights were actually sold for free, unfortunately, by
Yep.
the game.
Right.
So when you look at
When
that
was
from
that? When was that, Brides? When did they make that
that,
deal?
I believe it would have been the start of our first CBA cycle, which was 20, so 5 year cycle. So it would have been 2022.
Yeah, because like obviously, like if it was 2018, that's probably not a bad business decision to go, righto, we just need to
Yeah.
get these girls in and we need to, start
Yeah.
getting some advertisement for them. But
Yeah.
2022, they should have seen that it was growing.
Yeah. Don't quote me on that year,
Yep.
but because I'm not sure what cycles work in like television.
Yep.
But I'm assuming it was around the same time as our CBA cycle,
Yep.
potentially. But yeah, when I say for free, they sold them for cost price, and anything above, we that's not generated back into our us as a game.
Yep.
Where you talk about how many people have watched Origin, you talk how many people have attended games, and if that was directly being funded back into our women's game, then our revenue would be,
Correct.
who knows? It's yeah, paint that picture however you want it, but yeah, it's that is one aspect of it to why we're not there yet, I guess, but yeah, we're constantly challenging that, constantly breaking down those barriers and pushing the people at the top to recognize that we are investable, and let's push to that next level of making us professional athletes.
100%. And like obviously, again, take it back to a business position. You can't just pull money from anywhere to start paying people. It's just like, right, if I've got an employee and he's bringing me in $100,000 worth of jobs, but another employee's only bringing me 20,000, I can't pay them the same price. However, that's not the case with the NRL and NRLW. So from what we're saying, when the CBA agreement is renewed in 2028, we should see some huge changes.
That's what we're hoping for, and that's what we're pushing for,
Yep.
basis on everything that the women's game has done so far.
Yep.
So yeah, we've got a good backing behind us to prove that we are the product that should be invested in. We are the leading sport in our country, and we are the game that everyone wants to watch. So yeah, let's invest pretty much.
And that's still 3 years away. So, like, in a sense, a good thing to look at is if the CBA agreement was this year, you probably wouldn't get as much as you're going to get if it all goes to plan by 2028, because that game should grow a hell of a lot more from then. So again, disappointing now that it's not happening. Probably need to shorten the CBA terms up. However, when it hits 2028, it should be astronomical.
Yeah, it should be booming, and it's very exciting.
Yeah, that's cool. And is there any players in the NRLW, like your big names like Tamika Upton, Ali, oh, she's obviously retired, I know Ali Brigginshaw or Taryn Aiken, who can live purely off the NRLW contract or not? No one can.
Um, it's quite tricky. So our salary cap as a whole is actually quite small compared to the
Yep.
men's. So that doesn't really allow much variation in the contract because a lot of our salary cap is taken up by minimum wage
Yep.
and minimum that minimum that minimum salary and that minimum contract. So when players can live off versus can't live off, there's probably a small percentage that are earning a lot more than minimum, but there's not too much variation in a minimum player versus a top of the game player
Yep.
in that sense from a salary cap because the salary cap just doesn't allow
For sure.
all that spread. A lot of the girls, yeah, I would say majority of the girls are still working in some capacity outside of their contract, and
Yep.
because that's just the way our game still is.
Yep. Yeah. No, well, hopefully, as you've stated, hopefully the next couple of years we can see some change there, and the I guess the quality of football as well will increase when that happens. Even though you guys are killing it, if we can get women playing, that's their pure job, that's all they do every week, like the NRL do, you would have to see a quality increase in the football there as well.
Absolutely, more time to invest and get better as an athlete, then that's just going to directly affect on the product, isn't it? So
Yep.
it's a no-brainer.
Yep. 100%. Let's get into next Sunday. So it's your first game. Sunday the 6th, I believe. You're playing the Warriors at home.
We are home game, double header. We're um, playing before the men. I don't actually know who the men are playing, but yeah,
No
we've got the
idea.
Warriors, which are back in the comp this year. So
Yep.
I think they left the comp in maybe 2020 was their last time in the comp
Yep.
before coming back in.
Hmm.
Very exciting. I suppose there's a little bit of unknown around the Warriors. They haven't had a trial game,
Yes.
and they've got a lot of fresh faces, a lot of rugby players.
Yep.
But we know New Zealand players are always big, strong, tough, um, and incredible athletes. So it's going to be a big game.
That's awesome. And how are you guys looking as a club?
Good. We're actually really lucky in the sense that we've kept a lot of our squad from our premiership winning team last year, just a few changes. So if that says anything, then I think we're on a good trajectory for this year, and we've big focus of preseason is about not getting complacent. We achieved what we wanted to do last year, but we know the competition is just going to go to a whole nother level this year, and the addition of the two new teams is just going to increase the competition. And yeah, we really need to go to that next level as well to go back to back.
Definitely. And obviously, you said you're fit and healthy. What position should we see you in? Do you know if the teams are picked for Sunday? You're going to be in the starting team?
Don't know. Yeah, so we sort of won't know until next week around team selections.
Yep.
John Strange, our coach, Strangey, he loves to sort of put us here, there, everywhere. So
Yep.
in terms of position, not really sure yet. Yeah, played a variety of positions, but where that position is for this year, I'm not too sure yet. But it's exciting to see the versatility of our team. Um, just to have the depth and the versatility is a
Yep.
huge attribute of our team.
Definitely. What's your favorite position? Like, if you got to choose what position you could play in, what would you pick?
Well, I played fullback in the trial on the weekend,
Yep.
so that's pretty fun. I like the ability to get my hands on the ball a bit more. But yeah, I've played a bit of six, bit of center wing. I think it depends what team I'm in as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, playing outside Isabel Kelly or Jess Surges on the wing, like the best centers in the world.
Yep.
You can't complain about that. And obviously played in the wing last year and two tries on grand final outside of is. Yeah, I honestly don't mind where I play. I have a lot of fun wherever I do play, I guess.
Definitely. And moving into round one, based on just your personal opinion, who do you think your biggest competition is going to be for this year?
Just looking outside in, the Broncos have been training pretty much since competition finished in October last year. They've been going hard. So,
Yeah.
from yeah, looking outside in, like I said, that from that perspective, I think they're going to be a really strong, strong team to come up against because they have been so connected and working so hard for so long, and they had a trial game against PNG last week and it's
Hmm.
like 48-0 or something.
Yeah.
So if that's anything to show of what the season has to come, then we know that they're going to be very strong.
And is Ali Brigginshaw, she's still their halfback for this year?
Yeah, I believe so. I think she played half in that trial game. I
Yep.
didn't watch it, I just seen the score. But no, she's still around, and yeah, she's still playing a massive part of that team.
100%, and she copped a lot of slack in the State of Origin arena, which generally halfbacks do, right? Like I'm a halfback in our local comp, and when your team's losing, any halfback's going to cop the brunt of that. Whether it's it's happened in the NRL as well. But she is one of the best halfbacks, if not the best halfback to date, to take the field in the NRLW. So a team that has that experience and has that, I guess, older head in the club that is going to steer that team around. Yeah, they 100% they should be tough to beat.
Absolutely. That level of experience is something that you can't you can't just buy, I guess. And
Correct.
it's a massive asset for a team to have someone with her experience in the game. She's a pioneer of our game and doing amazing things still.
Yeah, 100%. I'm a big fan of hers. She's yeah, I don't know how old she is. I don't know how many years she's got left in a career, but again, um yeah, she's gonna do great things. She already has.
Absolutely. She'll keep kicking for as long as those legs let her, I reckon.
100%, 100%. And what about the two, like obviously the Bulldogs have come into the competition as well. Warriors have come back into the competition. How do teams, in your experience, how do teams that are fresh into the competition, how do they fare? Like they obviously haven't had experience in the NRLW comp before. Are they scraping at straws to get a team, or do they come into the comp strong and ready to go?
Sense of Warriors and Bulldogs this year. Bulldogs have an incredible female pathway, so they've really built from the ground up, and they've had a lot of players in their system that will now debut in this NRLW season. So from that perspective, I don't think they're scraping. They've also recruited really well in brought players from other experienced NRLW teams. So I wouldn't, they've got a mixture of experience and in youth, but the experience that they do have there in, so they've got really, very experienced half in Taylor Preston from the
Yep.
Sharks. I think she's just going to be able to lead by example and really, really hit the ground running with that club. And they showed last week in their preseason trial, they got up over the Tigers. And if that's an inkling of what their season looks like, I think they're going to make a statement and show that they deserve to be in the competition and they've recruited really well. In the sense of the Warriors, like I mentioned before, it's sort of a bit of an unknown. They've
Yep.
got Michaela Brake, an incredible Olympic gold medalist, rugby sevens Kiwi player. Just like the caliber of talent that they have recruited over there. Obviously, rugby is a completely different game to rugby league, but the athletes that they've created and recruited is going to be huge for them.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. It's gonna be a good season. I'm looking forward to it starting, that's for sure.
Yes, me too.
Got a couple of rapid questions here from a few of our fans that have commented last week. Obviously, they knew you were coming on, but before we do that, I'm just going to go into my horse tips for this weekend coming up so we can try and turn that 3.5K into 35K. So, race 6 at Rose Hill, we've got Step Aside. For the win, race 8 got Pure Alpha. I would go each way on Pure Alpha. Race 10, still at Rose Hill, got Liberty State. Win. Race 2 at Eagle Farm, Termagant. For the win, race 5 at Eagle Farm, Banker's Choice. And race 8 at Eagle Farm, Floozy. If you're looking for some value, I would go Floozy, Firestorm, Infancy, and Tashi. Same race multi, top 7. So anyone listening at home, put them on and make sure you share your winnings with me. You can put them on too, Brides. I'll up your salary for your
Ah,
NRLW contract.
nice. Need that.
Um, so a couple of questions here from some fans of the podcast. If you couldn't play for the Roosters, you've pretty much already answered this, but if you couldn't play for the Roosters for any reason, who would be your next pick?
No, as it's really hard to go past being a part of the Roosters. Being here since 2018. I honestly don't see myself anywhere else. So yeah, if I'm trying to picture somewhere else, I don't really know if I can answer that. Roosters through and through.
Or Muswellbrook Rams?
Must be Grams.
Favorite position, again, you've pretty much already answered that. Would fullback be, well, depending on what team, but fullback, would that be kind of somewhere you got your
Yeah,
freedom?
I think yeah, let's go fullback.
Yep, perfect. Who is one player in the NRLW that you would not, if they were in front of you, you would run sideways?
Amber Hall. So I'm lucky she's on my team, but spent a few years versing her when she was in Broncos, and you would just not want to go anywhere near her. I'm very grateful that she's now my teammate.
Is there any NRL players in the Roosters team that you think you would have covered one on one?
Oh,
I reckon you'd have
yeah.
Teddy. I reckon you'd have Teddy pretty covered. He can't stay on his feet.
Let's set it up. Let's prove it.
What's your proudest moment? Doesn't have to be in the NRLW career. What's your proudest moment so far in life?
I would say one of my proudest moments, if I keep it footy specific, oh wow, I can't even speak. If I keep it footy specific, would be my return from my ACL, as we
Yeah.
discussed before. That was probably the most mentally and physically challenging um, part of my journey so far, and just bouncing back from that is, yeah, I'm so proud of how I was able to bounce back from that.
Yeah, definitely. That I would be as well. As I said, it's that kind of injury can take a lot of people out of a full career. So to come back from that, and especially a second injury after that as well, and to come back from that again, you'd have to, yeah, credit to you for that. So that's huge.
Thank
Um,
you.
what is the best ground you've played on? Best ground to play on?
I'd have to stick with Allianz being our
Yep.
home field, as long as it's not raining. I don't know if you've seen game two
Yes.
for our
Yeah.
women's
Yeah. Yeah.
origin. It
Yep.
turned into a swimming pool, so you
Yep.
needed your goggles and your bloody flippers.
Yes. Yep. Even
Um,
even last weekend, uh I don't know what game was played there on the weekend, but it was terrible. It was shocking, just because of all the rain that's ha happened there. It's crazy.
yeah, so crazy. But on a good day,
Yep.
that's the field you want to be on.
Yep. Now, our final question, which is from me, what would you wire into someone's brain for success?
Ooh, so I had a little bit of a think about this one. I would definitely say the saying hard work beats talent. I love this saying. I just feel it like it really reflects on me as an athlete. Never been the most talented on a team, but I would say my work ethic is definitely one of my best attributes that's allowed me to achieve what I have today. And yeah, I'm always learning and always continuing to improve. And yeah, that's, I suppose, undermined by the, yeah, hard work beats talent.
100%. And it's funny you say that because I have mentioned that. This is our sixth episode, and I've mentioned that on every single episode since. It's one of Craig Bellamy's favorite sayings is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And
Yep,
I'm a huge believer in that. Huge.
absolutely. It's massive.
Probably the only person that I can ever think of that has done really well in their career that hasn't worked hard and they've got an enormous amount of talent was Freddie Fittler, and he openly says that. He used to party hard, never trained.
Yeah.
He was an absolute athlete. He's the only person I can think of that hasn't worked hard to get to where he was.
Honestly, it's crazy. People like that are just freaky, and I'm
Yeah,
just like, You just look at it and you're like, I'm working my ass off and you're achieving this and here I still am. But
Correct,
no,
correct.
it really underpins who I am as an athlete. So I love that.
No, definitely. Well, that's it, Brides. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know, as you've explained, your schedule is enormous. So thank you very much for coming on.
No, thanks, Coop. It was been great to chat and thanks for having me.
No stress. Next week's special guest, we have local business owner Brendan Hamilton coming on. So he's actually a competitor of ours as well. He's got his own electrical business. He does salt. He does everything that we do in Branxton. But he's also a really good mate of mine. So I'm going to get him on and have a chat to him about business and how I guess we can be competitors in our industry and still have the friendship that we have. So we'll get him on and we'll go from there.
Awesome.
Thanks, Brides.